What is up, YouTube? This is Kevin of KH Creations, and today we're going to be covering how to create a basic introduction for your YouTube channel. I'm going to play you a sample right now just to show you what I mean. So we're going to be creating something like that. It ended a bit abruptly, but you get the idea of what we're going to be creating. So let's press X here, and right now we're into the Cinema 4D interface. I'm guessing you have a bit of experience with Cinema 4D. If not, in this tutorial we'll be covering a bit of everything. So text, colouring, keyframing, lighting, and eventually the rendering. So let's start by importing a MoText object. That will give us our nice text that we saw in the sample. Let's just center our camera position by using these tools in the top right hand corner. And this is the rotation, this is the pan back and forth, and this is the left, right, diagonal, and all over the place. So on our MoText object we're going to go down to the attributes, and for this tutorial I'm just going to write demo, and then I'm going to go over to the font. In the sample, the font I was using was called Nasalization. I think that's how you say it, but this is the one. I think I got it off Da Font or DA Font. Very good site. I'll put the link in the description below. And right now we have our font, and that's just the basic shape of what you saw in the sample. Let's start by importing a color for our text. What I've done is just double clicked this area here, and that's brought up a shader object. Double click that shader, and we'll go to the color channel, click the color, and just choose a color that you want. I'm going to try and get that blue that I showed you at the beginning. I think it was around this color. Let's go over to the reflection, tick that channel, turn the brightness to around 32%. Click this arrow right here, and let's go down to Fresnel. That will create a nice sort of gradient fill around the reflection. And as you can see, here is our gradient adjustment. I'm just going to turn the white side up a bit. And now I'm going to go to specular, and I'm going to turn the height way up. And what this will do is basically create the shine that you'll see on the edges of the text. So I've actually closed the sample file. Let's just bring it back up. As you can see, whoops, that ended a bit too quick. Let's restart that. But as you can see, as it's going through, there's shine on the edges here, here, here. That is the specular. So the more you turn that up, is the more shine you'll get on the edges. So let's bring that back. Right now I've got it at around 126. I reckon that's fine. I'm just going to turn not that high. Let's keep it at 50. That won't make it much difference. So I think that's all done. Let's drag the color to the text object and render that out. And as you can see, the color is there, and it's a bit bright on this side, and that's because of the high specular. But once we add the lighting in and we cast some shadows on it, that should go to the way we saw in the sample. So let's just add a few fillet caps to the text, and I've done that by going to the text object and going down to caps and then hitting fillet cap here. I'm going to turn the radius down to 2 there also, and that basically brings the bevel down a bit. Turn the steps up to 10 and 10, and that's basically rounded off, give us a nice rounded edge that you see right now. And now I'm just going to bring in the lights. For the sample video I actually used two lights. The one that was to the left was a bit dimmer than the one on the right. It's just so we can get, as it's, let's bring back the sample. It's a good thing to refer back to. As you can see, as it comes in, it's ending way too quickly. Should have rendered it out a bit longer just so you could see. But as you can see, it gets brighter on this side and it's a bit dull on this side. So this light, we're going to pull back and turn the intensity down to around 30%. And that will give us a bit of darkness. And we're going to turn on the shadow by clicking on the shadow map soft. Let's duplicate this light by hitting Control C, Control V, moving this over, and then turning the intensity up to around 80%. And as you can see, that's already taken the reflection and the scene that we had in the sample. So if we render that out, you can see that. I think that's a bit too bright still, so we're going to turn that down to around 70. And it's coming together now. So at the moment we've got no animation at all, so if we go down here and move the timeline, nothing will happen. So what we're going to have to do is create the animation. So I use the camera in the sample scene, and what you'll do is just click and hold this button here, select your camera, and then you'll get your camera on the right hand side here. I'm going to click this button, and this basically allows you to see through the eyes of the camera. What I'm going to do is zoom in. Let's move it up a bit. Zoom in to around here. Hit the keyframe, telling Cinema 4D that this is where we want the scene to start. I'm going to let's move the frames up to around 150 just by clicking and entering 150. Let's move the frame to 100. Move back, I'm just using the wheel on my mouse to scroll back to around there. Hit the keyframe, and now we've got a bit of an animation. But as you remember in the sample video, the text actually came from behind the camera. So to do this, we also have to animate the text. So let's come out of the camera for that. Just deselect the camera, rotate around it, and now we can see the scene and see what the camera is looking at. Let's select our text object, move it. Let's do it back to front. I like to animate back to front when it comes to the text. So at the moment it's on 100, and that's the frame we want it to end on. So let's hit the keyframe, and then let's move this to 0. And this is basically the starting point of the animation. And what we want to try and do is get this text to fly past the camera. So around there. And then hit the keyframe. And as you can see, the text flies past. But I reckon that is very dull. In the sample video you'll see that there's a bit of a rotation to the text. So it was actually, let me show you, it was actually rotating up from the bottom and then finishing like that. So to do this, let's put it back at 0, rotate and face the text downwards to around now. Oh, we haven't got this text selected. Make sure you've got the text selected, and upon the first keyframe we're going to set another keyframe, so that will basically give us the rotation that we saw. So if we go back to the camera view, put it back to 0, press play, we've got the text coming in. But as you can see, it ends a bit too soon. So what we're going to do is move this frame in which where the camera stops up to 150. So now, if we put it back to 0, press play. Although the text stops at that position, the camera keeps moving back. So it looks a lot more effective and it ends a lot smoother. Like so. And I reckon that's looking pretty good. I could turn this light down a bit more. Let's say around 60%. And let's add a bit of colour to this light. I don't normally add colours to my lights, but I'm going to do it now just to show you guys how you would. So if we click down here, it's not good to add a very harsh colour like so, because that will adjust the whole colour of the text. That actually looks not too bad, but I'm going to turn it down a bit. It looks like there's a bit of fire coming from the left hand side, so I'll turn that down a bit, and as you can see there's a bit of orange and it fades into the lighter blue, and that doesn't look too bad. If we move it to this angle and then render it, it's looking really nice and smooth. So that's it, we basically got our simple introduction. So let's go to the render tool, because right now we want to get it out to a video so we can put it in front of our, I don't know, not Cinema 4D, our After Effects file or our Sony Vegas file. So let's click here. The dimensions of the video you'll adjust here, so I'm just going to do 1280 by 720. And as you can see, that's sort of adjusted the shape of or the angle of our camera. It's a lot closer now, and that's because we've basically widened the screen. I'd recommend that you adjust these settings at the beginning, but for now I reckon that still doesn't look too bad, so I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to go to frame range, click all frames, tell him Cinema 4D we want to render every single frame on this timeline. We're going to go to save, hit this drop down box, and we're going to save it as a QuickTime movie for now. Hit here, tell Cinema 4D where we want to save it. I'm just going to save it to my desktop. Kevin, that's my name. Anti-aliasing, I'm gonna hit best, and that's about it. Let's hit X there. Let's give it one final look. That's all working fine. And now to render, we'll just hit this button here. And now it's just rendering through our scene. Depending on what computer you have, it could take a while. If you've got a decent computer, then it will render quickly. I've got a pretty nice computer which I built myself with 16 gig of RAM and an overclocked processor, so my rendering time's pretty short, but it varies depending on what computer you've got. So right now that's rendering it all out. Once it's done, we'll have our final project, and depending on where you saved it, you'll be able to go ahead and view what you've done. But for now, that's the end of the tutorial. If it helped you in any way, please make sure you hit that like button, favourite button, leave a comment, and most importantly subscribe for more. I will be coming out with a lot more tutorials, in-depth introductions of what you can be making for your YouTube channel. So hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Peace!